Hello, good afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone. Hello, hello, hello. Good afternoon, everyone. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Good afternoon, sir.
Okay, okay, good afternoon. So please, let's continue. So today is the third week and our third class for the 30 days program. And before I continue with today's topic, I just want to briefly talk about the last assignment, especially the task 6, where I said everybody should extract the first name and the last name. I noticed that I think it is everybody like everybody that answered that question made use of left, the left function. And I noticed that with the left function, they are doing it one after the other, one after the other. So I did think the question now asks about like 400 or 500 rules. We used to be doing it one after the other. Like the function I was expecting everyone to make use of is text before and the text after. That was the function I was expecting everybody to use. And if maybe there's someone using the older version of Excel, if you cannot make use of the text before or text after, I was expecting the person to make use of the split text to column method and just have to specify space as a delimiter. But notwithstanding, everybody did great. But I think that's just the where majority of almost everybody said had issues. So we can correct that against next time. So because we can't be using left and doing it one after the other, one after the other. What if the row is much? So the best approach is just to make use of the text for text after. And if you are using the other version, just make use of the split text to column. So not to waste time, let's continue with today's class. Today's class is talking about advanced functions and visualization. I send the file to the group so you can download it so you can follow up. So now I'll be sharing my screen. Oh, I want to share screen. So now, sorry, can you see my screen? Can everyone see my screen? Hello? Can everyone see my screen? Okay. So now I'll continue. And also, now I'm sharing my screen. So if at any point in time you cannot hear me, just unmute and let me know. And also, if you have any question, just note it down. When we are done with the class, you can ask. So just to save time. So today we'll be starting with the logical function. And the logical function we'll be making use of here is the if statement. So what's the if statement? The if statement tests a given condition and returns a value for a true result and another value for a false result. We always use logical operators for the if function. So for the if function, it is just like what we do almost in our everyday life. That if something happens, so just like I'm saying, if you promise a kid that if he has a good grade, you promise him a gift. You know, the kid would have known that okay, if the grade is good, the kid will be expecting a gift from you. But let's say the grade is bad, then what the kid is expected to know that what there's no any gift. So that's just if, like the condition must be met for the if statement. So it can either be true or be false. So the condition of if can either be true on the or false. So an example is I have something like this, the if statement. If I say if what I have in this set is greater than what I have in this set, it should return correct. Otherwise, it should return wrong. So now, if I enter it, it's returning wrong because what I have in this cell is 3. 3 is not greater than what? 3 is not greater than 5. If I come here and I change what I have here to 7, now you got it has changed because the condition here is true now because I have 7 is greater than 5. So it has satisfied the condition. But if I come on and increase what I have here, now what? It is not more satisfying the condition because what I have in this cell is not greater than what I have in this cell. And my if is that I made it, my condition is this cell must be greater than this cell. So this is how the if works. So the condition can either be true or it can be false. So depending on what you specify. So if I come and I this what I have there to greater than false. So now if I turn this to truth, now it's satisfying the condition because of I'm using the condition of greater than or equals. So the two cells might be equal, might have same number. But what? This must not just be greater than this. So if I proceed and reduce it, so that's just how the if work. So that is just how the if work is. Nothing complicated about that. So now next we have nested if. Nested if is if you put if inside another if anything you can even gain nesting. That means that we are putting one function inside another function. If you remember when we were talking about the string, like I said, we can put string, we can put clean inside string. Exactly. That's an example of what nesting. That means that I'm putting one function inside another function. But this time around, I want to put if function inside if function. So now, notice what I have there. I have this age category. It says if it is less than or equal to 12, child. If the person age is between 13 to 19, teenager. If the age is between 20 to 35, it is young adult. If the age is between 36 to 60, is an adult. And if the age is greater than 61, we have old. So now, and the if I talked about is you can only use it for one condition, one at a time. And now we have how many conditions there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that means that we cannot make use of one if. It will not work. Because if can only take one argument at a time, which is either true or false. So that is where we come to the idea of using nested if. Because we have to put if inside. So now let me just give an example. If I just want to look for this age, just this first one, it should be if let me say I just want to show this age. If this age is less than or equals to 12, person should be a child. Because I'm using one age, I might not necessarily specify the value first. So you see that what when the age here is what is greater than 12, so it is returning false. Do you understand? So that means the age here does not satisfy this condition. But I cannot allow it to return false because there are these other conditions I need it to test. So that's why you cannot make use of if. So now, if you now want to make use of ifs, we'll start with if I said if what I have here, because we are not referencing the number, like we are referencing the cell. Don't write 36 because we're writing 36. That means what? We are referencing the number. And we need to reference the cell because the content of the cell can change anytime. So someone might come that, okay, this cell is not 36 and let's change the value. So that is why we don't reference we don't use reference the value, we reference the cell, the content of the cell. So now if I say if what I have here is less than or equals to 12. So now what is the value if 2? Value if 2 is person is what? Is a child. So I say a child. Now value if false. If I put value in false, if I put a single value in false, that's the end. That means I'm only testing for one condition. Do you understand? So because I have other conditions, instead of putting value in false, I'll introduce another if. This is the concept of what nested if. So just like saying, if I send someone an errand and I said, go to this pharmacy for me to help me get a med. So, and then I told him that if you get to the pharmacy, if the person is not there, go to the mall. So, when I sent him to the pharmacy, if he did not meet the pharmacy there, instead of coming back home, I already gave him an option that what? He should go to the mall or he should go to any malam that is around. I've given him 2 conditions. So instead of just telling him, if you do not see this, go to one end to the chemist or come back, I give him 2 options. So that means that if he did not meet the person there, he can either go to the malam or he can either go to the what? Supermarket to get what I sent him. So that is putting alternative options. So instead of specifying value if false, if you specify a single value as value if false, that will be that means you're only testing one condition. But by putting another if allows me to test another argument. So just like the value if false, that okay, if this is not true, then pick one of these 2 options. If you get it wrong, pick one of these 2 options. If you get it wrong, pick one of these 2. So I'm just giving, like when you always have an options. So I specify the first one. So if I want to do the second one, the logical test for this if, I say if this value. Now, remember I've said this value is less than or equals to 12. So if I want to say 13 to 19, I just have to say if this value is less than or equals to 19. Saying less than or equals to 19 because what? Excel works from left to right. So if Excel is examining this function from the left, when it gets to this, it would have noticed that what? I've assigned a value for any value that is between from 12 downward. That is the chart. So I no need to specify 13 to 19. By default, Excel already recognized because of I already specified that what any value that is less than 12 is what chart. So me saying less than or equals to 19. Less than or equals to 19 is 19 up to 13. It will not include this 12 because 12 downward can be occupied. So there's no need for us to be specifying 13 to 19. Excel already knows because we already assigned an argument for value that is 12 downwards. If I say if it's less than or equals to 19, the value is 2 now will be what? Teenager. And now value if false. Value if false, instead of me to specify one argument, I still have what? I still have other conditions to test. So that means I would say if. I'll introduce another if. So I'm referencing what this said. So if we've talked about 20 to 19, now it's 20 to 35. So I can either write less than or equals to 35, or I can just write less than 36. Because we are talking about less than 36. Less than 36 is what? 36 and 35 downwards. So if I say if it's less than 36, it should be young adults. This is my value too. This is my value too. So this is my value if two. So now, next, set the value if first. I still have what? The adults and the youths to test. I'll introduce another if. So this if will be what? If what I have here is less than or equals to or is equals to 60, it will be what? Adults. So now, value if first, I only have one condition. So the next thing, I only have what? One condition. So I can just say my value if first should be old. So what this means that whatever is inside this cell, if it tests this stress condition, if it's not less than or equals to 12, it's greater than 12, except we skip it and move to the what? To the next condition. If it's greater than what I have here, to move it to the next condition. If it's greater than what I have here, to move it to the next condition. So meaning what? I've defined from 1 to 60. From 1, because if you notice it's less than equals to 12 is 1 to 12. Less than 19, from there to 19, up to 60. I've divided from 1 to 60. So that means any number that does not fall between 1 to 60 is what is definitely greater than 60. That is what this function for old means. Because if the number does not satisfy any of these conditions, that means that I've defined 1 to 60. If the number does not satisfy any of these conditions, that means that the number is definitely greater than 60. Be it 100, be it 200, it is greater than 60. So that is what the old. If I enter it, because of the bracket I did not place, and where we have to correct it, then this is it. So 36 is giving me adults. If you check it, adults start from what? 36 to 60. So now if I come here and I also fill it, 85 falls into the old category. 35 falls into the young adults. So you notice that what? I do not log anything because what? I'm not referencing any cell. The only cell I'm referencing is this cell. And by autofilling, it will move from this cell, go to the cell after it, go to the cell after it, go to the cell after it. That is why I did not reference any cell. So this is how I make use of nested if. Putting if inside if. So for someone that is not familiar, even if you mastered it, if you are not careful, you might make a mistake by putting the nested if. So in response to that, there is the ifs function. So instead of us having multiple if, we just have one if, then what? We'll specify all our conditions. So the ifs is the alternative to the if condition. You know, the if only takes in one argument. That means the ifs can take multiple arguments. So the same data here that we are making use of nested if you want to do it with ifs this time around, we have what the ifs function. So it's exactly for the logical plus one. So meaning what? If what is there, if what I have here is less than or equals to 12, the value if 2 should be what? Should be child. Notice that now that I'm referencing a cell, I'm locking it. Now that I'm referencing a cell, I'm locking it. Before I do not reference a cell, I'm writing it out. That is why I cannot lock anything. So now, next, you see that this one is not asking for value if what? It is asking for what? The next condition. So that is the ifs. The if allows you to specify all the conditions you want to. So now, for my next condition, we feed it this same value. If it is what? 13 to 19 is the same thing as saying if it is less than 20. And if it meets that condition, it should be what? Teenager. So I will lock it. Next, logical test 3. This same number I have here. If it is what? Less than 36. If it's less than 36, it should be what? Young adult. So I will what? I will lock it. Next, I have what I have here. If it's less than 61, or let me use less than or equals to 60, less than or equals to 60, it should be what? And added. So you notice that what? This one does not have the S. So for my own, I need to still specify the condition. When we are using the if is just taking logical value if to value if false. But for this one, for the ifs does not work like that. So you know, if you follow the syntax, you see that it is asking for the logical test. So for my what? For my logical test, will now be if this is greater than or equals to 61, should be what? Should be old. So now, then if I close this, so if I autofill it, so now if you check the age, you see that it corresponds. So another one thing I want you to notice is that what I said Excel works from left to right. Excel works from left to right. So if I'm having this condition, imagine I have this condition that if, let me use if, let me say if, and I say if what is inside this cell is greater than 10. If what is greater than 10, let me put it correct. And if I say if what is inside this cell is less than 100, it should be here. You notice that what I have inside this cell I have 68. This 68 is greater than 10, and it is also less than 100. Now, if I enter it, you see that it only takes void. That means what? Except was from left to right. So the moment the first condition already satisfied what I have here, the moment the first condition already satisfied what I have here, Excel has declared. Do you understand? But if I come here, I might change it to if what I have here is equals to 68. You notice that it is still return voice. Meaning that what Excel works from left to right. So if you're using the if, the moment the condition is met, it will not even check all other conditions that you have. The moment you start checking from the beginning, and if the condition is met with the first if that is specified, that is where it will stop. It will not even bother checking something. Just like if you go inside the room and you're looking for something, the moment if you check the first two and you see what you're looking for, you won't even bother checking the other rows. So that's the same way the if works. Now we have the and the or function. The and function tests multiple conditions. And for the and, all conditions must be true. All conditions must be true. It's just like if I say you must come to class and you must mark attendance. So meaning what? If you do one, like if you want full mark, you must come to class and you must mark attendance. So if you come to class and you do not mark attendance, you won't get the full mark. Do you understand? If you saw the attendance in the book and you do not come to class, you still won't get the full mark. So that is what the and work. That means what it must satisfy all the conditions. It must satisfy all the conditions. All the conditions must be met for and function to be true. And for all, at least one condition must be met. One condition was met. Just like if two people are doing a test and they say two people they appear like you appear the exam, then they say if at least one of you pass this exam, the two of you will qualify the exam. So meaning what? If one person failed and the other person passed, they will still qualify. If one person if the other person failed and the other person passed, they will still qualify. If the two of them pass, they will still qualify. But if none of them pass, they will not qualify. So that means for all, at least one condition must be met. One condition must be met for it to be true. But the moment if the two conditions are true, then it is correct. If you want to use it, and if I say, and if I select this, and I want to finish. Now, you will see that what? This is true, this is true. And return true because of two conditions are true. But this is true and this is false. The and condition return what? False. Because it is only one of the conditions that are what? That is true. This is false. This is true. It is still return false because what? It is only one condition that is true. The two must be the same. Now, this is false, this is false. The two conditions are false. It's not like the two people even failed the exam. People what? People failed the exam. So that means what? They did not even pass. So meaning what? The case of the example I gave that for the and, two of them must pass. So even if one person pass, it's still what? It still won't count. Two of them must pass. That's what. That is how the and works. So for the or, at least one condition must be met. At least one condition must be met. So if I come here and I say so now if you see true and true, it returns true. True and false returns true because at least one of them is true. False and true returns true because at least one of them is true. But when the two of them are false, it returns what? It returns false. So that meaning what? For all, at least one of the conditions must be met. For all, at least one of the conditions must be met. So now, moving on. So next we have what? The combination, if you are combining the if and together. So I'm combining the if and together. No, we've done it separately. So now if I'm combining the two together. So let me check. Okay, so everyone, please, before I continue, I've sent the attendance link to the group. So kindly go and mark the attendance, and the link will only be active for 30 minutes. Thank you. So now, moving on, I said the if and function. It's two conditions of the met. So imagine that there's a pass mark of 70. If there's a pass mark of 70, for the if you're using the and, for the person to pass, the score in the two examples must be greater than that 70. That means you must pass the two exams before you pass. Before you can consider that you pass. So if you want to use it, we will start with, we will make use of the next thing. But this time around, we are not necessarily if inside if. We will next and inside if. So the first one will be if this is greater than 70. Remember to lock it. That's the first argument. The second one, if this is greater than, if this is greater than, yeah. So lock it. So you will notice that what I'm still in the and syntax. The moment I close the bracket, has moved to the if syntax. So that means what these two conditions must be met for the and. So if I say the value if 2 should be what? Pass. The value if 4 should be what? Okay. So if I enter in and I have to fill it. So if you check now, 89 is greater than 70, 77 is greater than 70, so the person passes. This score is greater than 70, but this score is less than 70, so the person failed because of the two conditions are not met. This one is greater than 70, and this one is also greater than 70, so the person pass. Same for this is less than 70, so you don't even need to check the second one because of one of the conditions, the person failed, so the person will automatically fail. So for this, they are both greater than 70, so the person pass. And for this, only one is greater than 70. So for and, the two conditions must be what? Must be met. So now, if I did the same thing for up, if I say if or so if this is greater than what I have, let's lock it. Or if this is greater than what I have, now if I close it, value if 2 is what? The person what? Pass. The value if false is what? The person. Okay. So now, if I enter it, I come, and I autofill it. So now, if I was checking it, these two are greater than 70, so the person passes. Only one is greater than 70, so the person passes because at least one must be what? One condition must be met. Only two, the two are greater than 70, so the person definitely passes. Only one is greater than 70, so the person still passes. The two are greater than 70. So if I come here and I change this on something like 55, you see that what? It changed to fail because what? The two conditions are not met. So at least it did not even score above the mark in any of the two exams. So that is how to make use of if and if and or. So next, we'll be moving on to lookup function. So first we have lookup function. We have the H lookup. H lookup is the same thing as horizontal lookup. The function finds and retrieves value from data in horizontal table. It searches for a certain value in a row. So the lookup once you know horizontal. So and it says to look for on horizontal table, meaning what? It go like this. You look for information from this row, then it moves to the next 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 row. So that is how the horizontal function works. But one thing about horizontal function is if you are looking for something in a particular column, if I'm looking for a data, let's say I'm looking for this banana. If you look for it row by row, but what? Whichever row I'm looking for, let's say the value you want to return for me is on this row, it will return the value on the same column as where I'm searching for. So just like if you go to a library, and let's say this particular library have their books in different languages. But one thing is common. Each shelf holds the same type of books. Let's say the first shelf has books on what? First shelf has books on history. The first shelf has book on history. The second shelf has book on business. So, but what just differentiates them is what? They are in different languages. Yes. So now, if you go to the library and you are looking for a particular book, let's say you are looking for a book on history, then when you get to the library, the first section you went to was what is Spanish, and you're looking for in English. You are looking for the yeah, you can only read in English. So when you get there, it is in Spanish. So, but one thing you check is what you check for the shelves where they hold it, like where you check for the shelves, the types of books that are there. So let's say you discover that it is in the second row that is what that is history book. So that means if you keep going to another section, if you get to the English section, you just need to check second shelf. Because what you've already established the fact that what history books are on what they are on the second shelf. That is how what the H lookup for. You'll be looking for a value on a particular column. If you're looking for this banana here, it will look for it on horizontal, like row by row. But when it will return the value, it will return the value on the same column as what you are looking for. So now let me explain. So let's say I'm looking for the orange suit. This is the first day, second day, the third day, the the fourth day. If I'm looking for the orange sold on the third day, so I will say H lookup. What am I looking up for? My lookup value. I can write it out. But make sure it is written the way it is on the table. So if I say orange, table or array, meaning what? Where am I looking into? So I'm looking for what I'm looking for. The row index number, meaning what? Which row contains where I want it to return what I want it to return. So meaning what? Remember that this is my range. So if I start counting, the third day, where did I have the third day? This is the third day. So if I now want to start counting which position this third day is on this range I highlight, we start from the beginning. This is 1, 2, 3, 4. So that means what? It's on the fourth row. Then the lookup is, are you looking for approximate match or exact match? But we should select the exact match. So if I press enter, so return. And so if I check, this is the third day. Orange showed on the third day. You see that what? It is 29. So what the exact match and approximate match does is mostly for numerical data set. So let's say I'm looking for 30. If I'm using exact match, if it does not see 30, it will return error for me. But if I'm using approximate match, so say I now have 30 in that table. If I now have 30 in that table, and there is 30.1 or 30.2, then after 30.2, the next data I have is 40, 45. It will select 30.2 because what? 30.2 is what? It's more closer to 30 than what? Than the 40, the 41. So that is how the approximate match works. So now, if I'm looking for, let me say, Apple sold on the 6th day, I will say H lookup. If I'm looking for Apple, it will be Apple. The table array is from here. The row index, Apple sold on the what? On the 6th day. So if I'm counting from here, the 6th day is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So it is on the what? 7th position. And I want it to return the exact match. So check Apple sold on the 6th day. It's what? It's 18. You notice that what? H lookup is working with the assumption that you know the what? You know the row number. H lookup, why working with H lookup? H lookup is working with the assumption that what? You know the row number. You see that what is actually about the column? Because it is the column that you specify what you're looking for. But it's working with the assumption that what? You know what you are looking for. And there's one thing about H lookup. H lookup can only look for data set from the top to the bottom. It cannot move from bottom to the top. Again, H lookup can only look for information from the top to the bottom. It cannot go from the bottom to the top. Meaning that what? I can use what I have here to look for anything beneath it. But what I have here, I cannot use it to look to retrieve any value that is above it. So say I'm looking for 175 now. Let's say, for example, I want to do something like this. Let me try to use H lookup. So I want to look up for what? Let's say this value. This is my lookup value. And I want to look it from this table. So I want you to return which row. Let's say I want you to return anything that match 175 from the second row. I want you to find the exact match. If I close it and enter, see that what? It's giving me error. It's giving me error because of H lookup can only look for information from top to bottom. It cannot go from bottom to top. So another thing when making use of H lookup, to avoid always having error in your work, because the value you might be looking for might not actually exist. It might not be there. Imagine now I'm looking for, I'm looking for ginger sold on the third day. Ginger sold on the third day. You will notice that I did not have ginger here. I now have ginger here. If I select the third day, where's the third day? The third day will be on the fourth row. I want it to return exact match. See that what it is returning error. So sometimes we are making use of VLOOKUP, HLOOKUP. You might the value you are looking for might not be there, and you might not even be aware. So to save yourself against situations like that, we can use what we call the if error. So the if error is just like a safety measure against what? Against error. So if I say if error, now you notice the argument, the value. So in this value, I will put my normal HLOOKUP function. If I'm looking for, I will do the same thing I repeat. I'm looking for ginger. Stable. Fourth small. Exact match. So now after I close it, you notice that what value if error means what? If what I'm looking for does not exist, instead of returning error, what did I want it to return? You see that what when I'm checking for things that is not possible, it is giving me error here. So now what this one is saying is if I do not want it to return error, if I do not want it to return error, what should I put? So let me say I change it to I put the value unknown. So if I put unknown, because what I'm looking for does not actually exist. So that is why what the unknown takes place. So that is how you make use of what if error. So instead of you having error in your work, if you make use if error, the value if error, value specified for if error will what will be put in place of error. So now next we have the VLOOKUP. The VLOOKUP function is a vertical lookup that looks for a particular value in the firstmost column of the table and returns value in the same row from a column you specify. I said HLOOKUP looks for information what from one row to another. Why VLOOKUP look for information from one column to another? So same like just like HLOOKUP, VLOOKUP can look for information from left to the right, but it cannot go from right to left. So we'll talk about that. VLOOKUP can only look for information. That means that you can use fruits to find the amount and the price, but you cannot use the amount to find the fruit, and you cannot use the price to find the amount, just like you cannot use the price to find the fruit. So, and I said HLOOKUPs for HLOOKUP, it is working with the assumption that you know the row position. Why VLOOKUP is working with the assumption that you know the column. So you are familiar with the column that has the value you want to return. So if I'm looking for orange, so this is my lookup value. I select orange from table or array. So if I highlight this is my table or what? Array. Column index. If I want it to return price, the price is in the what? This is the first column, second column, third column. The price is in the third column. I want it to return exact match. So if I enter, you see that what 0.45. That's the price of orange. If I want to check the amount, it was VLOOKUP. I want to look for orange. From where? From this table here. Which column? Amount is what is in the second column. So I'll put 2. And I want it to return exact match. So if I press enter, so you will see that was orange, the price of orange is what? 20. That is how we do it. So I can change it here. So I've not talked about this. Let me quickly talk about data validation. Data validation is like a set of rules that guide the types of information put on a particular range or a particular column. So Hope everyone can see him. Hope I'm audible enough.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So let's say I have this range. I have this range. So if you want to apply data validation, you come to this data tools. You see data validation. So if you click on it, you take it to data validation. So if I come here and I put whole number, I say I want to whole number minimum of what? Between 1 and 5. If I say okay, you see this range I specified. That's why I specified that what value that must be between 1 and 5. Come here and I put 2 between 1 and 5. If I put 4 between 1 and 5. But if I put 10, it's what? It doesn't match the data validation. So meaning what? Data validation is just to make sure that what the data entered into a particular cell or a ring or whatever is wherever is specified data validation, the appropriate data is what is entered into it. That's what data validation does. That's what data validation does. So if I come here, I can come and let data validation. So another way of using data validation is if I write it from this. Now let's say I want to put text. I want to put text. I can say I want you to take what? I put list. So this list it allows me to specify the type of data I want to put. Sometimes I can write it out. Let me say I write boy. Yeah, my. So meaning what? It only takes this information. Now you notice there's one input message here. What this input message means is I can say this cell only takes gender as that is the message. If I come to error alert, error alert means that what when wrong information is put there, what should it display? Wrong inputs. If I come here and I say okay. So now if you click on any cell, it will not show you. But if you click on that cell where I applied data validation, you see that what you will see what it shows you that what it only takes gender classification. So there's a drop down. You can either use the drop down or you can write it out. But if I put something that is not there, let me see I put it. See what the error message will pop up. That is how you use the message. So you will notice that for what I have here, it's data validation that's applied. So if I want to apply data validation, let's say I don't have anything. If I want to apply data validation here, I just have to come here, come to data validation. So I can clear all this that I have here. So if you clear the error message, so then I will say I want the list. But this time around, I don't want to write the list myself. I want to take it from the range. So if you come, just highlight everything. So I highlight everything I have here, come back here and save it. Data validation works, it has been applied. So you will see that I reference the cell. I reference a cell. Meaning what? If I come here and I change it to ginger. Now this one is returning error because I'm searching for orange, there is no ginger. But if I come, check my data validation, you see that what orange is no longer there. Because I reference a cell. So meaning what? If I change the content of the cell, it will not affect my data validation. But then I type data, that's when it affects my data validation. But I'm referencing a cell. So I can change the content of the cell as much as I want. It will still not affect You understand? It's not affected. So that is just for that on localization. You can just check more on that. So now, I said VLOOKUP, I only look from left to right and not from right to left. So let's say I have something like this. I want to look for department. So I want to look for this department. What am I looking for? This name. Because I can use first name to look for department. So if I write this, the column index is what? 1, 2, 3. That's 3. Then I want you to return the exact match. If I enter it, something what is his department is the market. If I want to look for his city, I just have to use the lookup. I'll say lookup value equal array. City is what? In the fourth column. Exactly. If I enter it, the city is what? Port Harcourt. But imagine I want to use department to find the first name. Imagine I want to use department to find the first name. I want to say VLOOKUP. I want to use Lagos to find Lagos from this table. I want it to return the first column. And the lookup was the exact match. If I enter it, it will return the error because it can only look from left to right, and not right to left. Don't make mistake. That's for that on VLOOKUP. So now we have index. Index retrieves value at a given location in a range. Match finds the position of an item in a range. Match is used to find the row number. So if you're looking for a particular value and you do not know the row number, you also make use of match. For index is more like a combination of VLOOKUP and HLOOKUP. And it has one advantage over VLOOKUP and HLOOKUP. You can look from left to right, right to left, up, down, anywhere. Index can what? Index can. So the differences that the VLOOKUP and HLOOKUP have, index has an advantage over it. And we make use of index with match. So ideally, if let's say I want to look up, let me say I have satellites. So and I want to find the name of what? I want to find the name of the planet that has this satellite is 0. I want to use index. Index is working with the assumption that you know what? You know the row and the column. Again, index is working with the assumption that you know the row and the column. So now, if I come here, follow this syntax above. So the array, you highlight everything. The row number. So the row number is what? Is 0. Which is 0 that wants to reply? Let me say I'm looking for the first one. So the row number is, you start from where you start highlighting it. So the row number will be what? Will be 2. The column, I want to return the first one. So the press to return Mercury from me. So meaning what? For index, you need to know the row and the column number. But the column number is ideal. In most cases, we do not have columns that are very much. If I'm using VLOOKUP, in majority of cases, majority of the data sets you are working with, it's a data set that you know the column. That I can easily count the column. But imagine a data set that have what? Maybe like 1,000 rows. Then you want to look for a row, or you are looking for a particular data set, you cannot know the row. That is where match comes in. But before I talk about match, if I want to know the position of, let's say this 67, let's say I have a satellite that is 67. This satellite that is 67. If I want to know the row number, I'll make use of what? Match. So if I say match, what is the lookup value? This is what I'm looking for. Lookup array. I don't need to select the whole table. I just need to select the column. That's what I'm looking for. If I select this, I want it to give me the exact match. If I press enter, it is returning 6. So if I check it, let's say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So this is why we make use of match with index. Because of index works with the assumption that we should know the row. But the person we might be working with might not know the row. That is why we need to make use of match. That's why we make use of what? Match with it. So now, if I want to use the two, so if I'm looking for the planet and the diameter, if I'm looking for the planet and diameter of this data set, if I'm looking for the planet and diameter of this data set, these are the satellites. So now, I'm working with the assumption that what I do not know their row position. You know, the one I did here, I work with the assumption that I know the row position, the row number. So now, yeah, we work with the assumption that I do not know the row. But come and I say index. So first the array. Then it's asking for the row number. I do not know the row number, so I will introduce match. So what am I looking for? The lookup array. The lookup array. The lookup array. So match type is what? The exact. If I close it, you see that I'm back to the one. That is for the row. So that is the only time we make use of the match. You see that what? The lookup value said it is not for the index, it is for the match. Because index does not need any lookup value. You only need what? The row number and what? And the column number. So it's just like what? The exact location, so you can pinpoint it. That is how index works. Like it's looking for a coordinate. Just tell it the row and the column, then you should just go and extract it. But there's some oftentimes that what you do not even know the row number of what you are looking for. So that is the lookup. Now make use of that lookup. That's where the match comes in. So now for the column, I say just like VLOOKUP, index is working with the assumption that you know the row and the column. So you might not know the column and the row number, but most of the time, majority of the time, so the data set you work with, you will know the column. But you need to best understand the number of columns you have because you need to identify the type of information each column contains. Or even if the columns they are much, you can just hide some columns so you can do what you intend to do. Now for the column number, I want to become planet. So planet is what is the person. So now if I enter, so if you check 27, so satellite 27 what belongs to us to planets. You see that what in this case I could not make use of VLOOKUP because what VLOOKUP cannot check from right to left. But index can check from right to left, left to right. Just give it the location and what you are looking for. Index what? Index will return the value. Index will return what? Index will return the value. So if I'm looking for the diameter, so that would be what? Index. So the my array, I need to just highlight, followed by my row number. So my row number, I need to make use of match. So which value am I looking for? 27. From lookup array, I just need to specify the column that has my lookup value. So I don't need to highlight everything. Because it only needs to return the row position for me. So if I return exact match, I will close it. So I'll be back to the what? To my index syntax. Then my diameter is what? Second column. Press enter. Then if you check it, So that is what that's how we make use of. That's how we make use of the index. So any question on that before we just proceed? Is there any question on that? Okay, so there's no question on that. So I'll briefly explain charts. Because at the end of get a data set, at the end of getting a data set, after you clean your data set, you need to visualize it. So this is where we make use of the chart. You need to visualize it. The dashboard consists of what? Different charts. The dashboard consists of what? The dashboard consists of what? Different charts. So first we have what? The column or the column and the bar chart. So let me see. A column chart, which is the vertical bars, while bar chart is what? The horizontal bars. So column chart, a vertical bars, or bar chart, horizontal bars are useful for breaking down numerical variables by category. They are used for that means what a bar chart and a column chart, they are all used for categorical data. Meaning what? If I'm talking about students, I'm talking about their grade, I'm talking about their distribution, maybe first class, second class upper, second class lower. You know that what you broken it down what into categories. If they say what the final year graduates, then what we arrange them based on what they are what based on their grade. So first class on one line. We have what we categorize them. That's it. If we're talking about gender, gender is an example. And the age group we did in the first worksheet when we are talking about the if result is an example of what greater data. So creating data based on what categories. Oftentimes what similar categories. Do you understand? Creating data is what into categories. Now, if I have this, I have got the sales of so now I have the sales of what different region. Now, if I want to use a bar chart to display it, if I want to use a bar chart, so I'll come to insert. Yeah, different charts. So you just have to look for the one you're looking for. So this is for bar chart. For a column chart, this is a column chart. So if I think this is an example of what a column chart. What I'm visualizing the data set I have here. So if I have what information that are more than this is one way to visualize it. If I want to do for this, so let me use bar chart for this. If I want to insert what in bar chart. You see that from these bars, I can easily tell the data set that is higher. Compared to if I have it on this range like this. I just have to be looking among the values. But with these bars, you can easily tell what the category that have what the highest data. Because what the sizes of the bars are different. Just like the region that I have here. Sizes of the columns are what they are different. So that's how we make use of the bar or the column. They are used for categorical data. If we're talking about product, talking about category, if we're talking about gender, so anything that does have to do with what pushing things into different categories. We make use of either the bar chart or column chart. Make use of either the bar chart or column chart. So next we have the line charts. Line charts are useful for time series data. When we say time series data are data sets that are collected consistently or with an equal interval over a period of time. So what the time series data must be data that you collected daily. If you're talking about daily sales, that is what the time series data. This is daily. If you're talking about what data that has to do with what hourly. If you're talking about monthly data, if you're talking about annual data, we're talking about what decades. So that's an example of time series data. A data set that is collected over time with consistent intervals. So if you're talking about a mall or a supermarket sales, So some of the supermarket, I think all the supermarkets have open almost every day. So meaning what? They have what? They will have their sales record for what? For each day. So that means if you go to this supermarket, a particular supermarket, and you want to access that data asset for this month, for this year, they will give you what sales breakdown for each day. That's an example of what time series data that is what collected consistently over time. It's an equal what in hour. So if you want to denote a time series data, we mostly make it of what a line chart. But line chart is what basically used for time series data. You can use VAR or Coulomb chart, but it is more like written rule. Yeah, let me put it like that. So it's some of a form of written rule. Make use of what line chart for time series data. I don't know if you see some news report, anything that have to do with information, maybe from yearly. We are talking about maybe inflation, yearly, foreign reserve, any information that have to do with what annual data set. It is mostly represented with a line. That's a line chart. That's an example of a line chart. So if we want to visualize a line chart, let me say I highlight the data set I have here. So if you come to research, we look for lines. I look for lines. So if you make it on a line chart, you will see that what this is an example of what a line chart. Using a line to visualize our data set. An example of what this is an example of a line chart. So this is telling us the changes over what? Over this time period. So meaning what? From January there was a decline to February. So February to March what? There's an from February to May, there's what? There's an uptrend. So with the line chart, you can easily see what? See the trend. You can easily spot the trend. With this line chart now, I can easily spot what? The peak. The peak is what? The peak is around August. The peak is what? The peak is around August. Why the least sales was recorded in what? In October. So see that with this line chart, I can easily what? I can easily see. And if there's an uptrend, I notice that what? There's an uptrend from February to May. Then May going to June, there's a what? There's a downtrend. From June up to August, there's an uptrend. And the sales peak in August. So these are information that are what? That are reviewed by what? That are reviewed by a line chart. So next, we have the area chart. An area chart is a graph that combines the line chart and a bar chart to show changes in quantities over time. Similar to a line graph, in that data points are plotted and connected by line segments. However, the area below the line is colored in or shaded. So the line chart and area chart, they are what? They are same thing, but then they are very similar, but they are not similar. So let me just show you. If I want to decide an area chart, this is an example of a chart. So you see that this is similar to what? It is similar to a line chart. But the only difference is what? The only difference is that the areas, they are what? They are shaded. The areas are what? The areas are what? They are shaded. That is so it's just telling us what the area chart gives us more details, telling us the area that what each data covers. So the line chart is only giving us what like pinpoint location. But the area chart will tell us what the region it covers. So now also I'm making use of an area chart. Let's say I want to add area chart. So now see this. If you are comparing two conditions or two or more conditions, the area chart is, unless you understand, the area chart is also not complete because of this region you are seeing here, all these regions you are seeing here, there are values for this dial also. But because what? Because the second visual, because everywhere the two are shaded. So it's what? It is the second column that is shaded that what? That will dominate the shaded area. So someone might look at this and think that that does not have a value. It actually has a value here. So this same information, if I want to compare it to the line chart, you have something like this. We have what something like this. Say, so what? We have this information like this. So you see all this place that looks like it is only one that is having value. See it on the table here. Talking about August, September. You see that what their values are very close. The only difference is what? Is 100. The only difference is what? Is 100. That's why you look like the values are close and you might think that what? One does not record the sale. So if the values are close, it is sometimes what hard for you to spot the difference if the values are very close. But it's not to find that what data that are very close. So now next we have pie charts. So pie chart plays the same role as column or bar chart for breaking down data by categories. So pie chart what refers is perform the same role of color by breaking data. That means what pie chart is also used for what categorical data. However, we prefer column or bar chart to any of these circular charts. So now I will explain on that. So if I want to use a pie chart for this, what is the pie chart? I want to start the pie chart. So this is the pie chart. This is a pie chart. So the pie chart we allocate slices or pies with the proportion of data. Since the proportion of data that we specify what the slices. So if you check the chart has what the lowest portion. So if I come here and I increase the value of the chart to what to let me say 750, you notice that what the slice has changed. But oftentimes it is advisable that if you want to make use of pie chart, there are two conditions that it is advisable not to make use of pie chart. First, if we are having what more than 4-5 data sets, if already having 5 more data sets, it's not advisable to make use of pie chart. And why is that? It's not advisable to make use of pie chart because of it will start introducing different colors. To start introducing what? To start introducing different colors. And another advantage of using pie charts, if the values are closely, if the values are close, take for example, I have something like this. If I change this one to 770, if I change this one to 790, I change this one to 760. Like if I ask you to check this, if we give this to most people and we ask them to what to say the highest, tell us the highest value here, most people will not be able to tell because of if the values are close, the what this proportion, the slices what will be very similar. And if the slices are similar, it will what it will sometimes add. It will sometimes add the what to tell the difference between the data set. It will sometimes add to what to tell the difference between it. So sometimes it's advisable that if you're having a data or a category of data set that are close, you're not able to make use of what the bar charts or the column chart. Because what we're talking about the bar chart, even if they are close, even if it is by slight margin, the bar chart will be what? The column chart will be different. Let's say what I have here. If I come here, I change this one. Notice that what it is similar, but it is still what they are similar, they are very close. But even though they are very close, you can still tell that what you can still tell the one that one is what slightly longer than one. That one is what slightly. Oh my God. So if I make this here, so with the bar, you can even see what, even if it's slightly that was, this what is slightly longer than what, slightly longer than. But with the pie chart, they are always what, they are always close. So now, imagine that this same thing, let's say I have this particular data set. Now let's say I want to use this pie chart for this information. If I want to start pie chart. Now notice how the color variation is. That's why I said if you're having more than maximum of 4, if the data set is getting more than 4, it's not advisable to mix up pie chart because of what? Because of how color variation or what the color variation was look like. So it's not advisable to make use of pie chart in such case. Yes, it's not advisable to make use of pie chart in such situation. Now, next we also have donut chart. Donut chart is very similar to pie chart, only that it's very similar to some people even prefer, or let me say I prefer donut chart to pie chart. Donut chart is the pie chart as well. It's a space in the middle. And the pie chart is a space in the middle. So it's the same thing as the pie chart. It is what they are both categorical data. They are both categorical data. So you just get to choose one you want. So now next we have scatter plot. Scatter chart are to examine the relationship, if any, between 2 columns of data. The example, yeah. So what scatter chart is what is used to take the relationship between what 2 data. It's similar to what to correlation. I don't know if it's familiar with correlation. Correlation is the same that. Let's say now, if there's an hike in fuel price, or when there was an hike in fuel price, that there was an hike in fuel price, we'll notice that what the cost of transport, there was also an increase in the cost of transport. That means that fuel price, as the fuel price is increasing, transport, the cost of transport is also increasing. That means that there is a positive relationship, there's a correlation because of this. The increase in one is leading to what? The increase in another. That is a positive correlation. Yeah. So we have negative correlation. Negative correlation is if, let's say what, there is stable electricity. If there's stable electricity, people that have generator, they will know what, they will not make use of, they will not buy fuel. Like they will not buy for a food again because of there is stable electricity. So meaning what? The more stable the electricity is, the lesser fuel the people buy. That means what? Increase in one is leading to decrease in another one. That's negative correlation. So now there are some instances where there is no even correlation at all. There's no even correlation at all. So just like saying hike in fuel and, or let's say stable electricity and the price of maybe biscuits, something like that, like they are not related. They are not like correlated. So if one is increasing, it will have what leads to no effect on the other one. That means that they are not correlated. So now scatter plot is just what visualize that. So if I'm creating this one, I'm going to size scatter chart. Now notice the relationship. Notice this form of relationship. If you're having, if the relationship is positive, it will converge in an uptrend. Because what? This will be increasing, this will be increasing. So if there's a positive relationship, it will converge towards what? Towards an uptrend. But if there's a negative relationship, it will converge towards what? A downtrend. Because as one is increasing, the other is decreasing. Or as one is increasing, the other is decreasing. So the downtrend might move like this, right? But it will converge what? In a downtrend. That's his example. So this example is not enough to even show us the direction because of this is more like an uptrend. This is more like an uptrend. And this is more like indecision. So let me see if I have an example that's similar. Okay, let's talk about height and weight. So size. You will see that what this is convergent. This is an example of what positive correlation. That means that there is a positive relationship between a person's height and weight. So a slim person, the height and weight of a slim person can never be the same with the height and weight of what someone that is not extra. You understand? So there is a relationship between the height and the weight. So that is why what this is an example of what positive relationship, positive relationship, positive correlation. You see that what it is converging towards what towards the upside. Meaning what as the height is increasing, the weight is what is also increasing. If the height is increasing, the weight is also increasing. That's an example of what. That's an example of that is scattered. So now, the next thing I want us to talk about is pivot table. The next thing I want us to talk about is pivot table. Pivot table is an aggregation or summarization tool in Excel. So it's an aggregation or summarization tool in Excel. But to make use of pivot table, you have to first, your data set has to first be in tabular format. That means you must convert data to a table. So imagine that I have this data set, I'm asked to calculate total sales by ship mode. So most of all this information, if we are to calculate it ideally, you make use of what? The sum ifs, the average ifs. So with pivot table, you will get what? It is more faster and easier. By making use of sum ifs, average ifs, if you made the mistake of not locking your range, if you're autofilling, there will be what? There will be an error. Why using count or why using average? If your reference, if you highlight it wrong, so it can affect your result. So now let me say I want to convert this data. But if I convert this data set, I have to first make sure that your data is clean. So meaning what? There's some blank space here. So before I even do that, let me first make sure my rows, my columns are in order. So next I have to check from blank. So you just have to, this is where my data set starts. Come here. I want you to look for blanks. So if you look for blanks, I can just delete. So now, if you want to convert the range to a table, just click on any cell in your range. Make sure your range is not having what? A blank. Because if there's a blank, I said whenever there's a page break, Excel will assume that that is where your data sets up. That is why you notice that I first check for blank. I first make sure I remove blank in my data. So you will make use of Ctrl T, and it will highlight that my table has header. Some people will be unchecked. You just have to check it because you must specify that your table has header. So by default, the first row will be used as an header, as the header. So now this is my data in tabular format. This is my data in tabular format. So now if I want to insert a pivot table, I want to make use of a pivot table. So I'll tell us this pivot table. I want to insert So first, let's say this question. Let me first do it with the method you are familiar with. Total sales by ship mode. If I want total sales by ship mode, where are my ship mode? This is the ship mode column. You click on it. I have how many ship mode? 1, 2, 3, 4. So if I'm looking for total sales by ship mode, to make it a total sales by ship mode, I have to use first. I need to bring out the unique ship mode that I have here. I can't use autofill and I can't write it out. Because if I say it is not much, I should write it out. What if it is very much? So the way to first extract it is what to make it of the new function. So unique, with unique function. So if you just select everything and press enter, the unique function will be return the data set you have. So regardless of how many times they occur, unique will only return it once. So if you have a range of data sets where there are duplicates and you want to just extract the different type of data that you have there, you make use of unique. Unique will only return it once, regardless of how many times. If you click on this data set, I have what? 9,994 rows. But what? The ship mode, I only have what? There's only 4 ship modes. So that means what? It's 4 ship mode that span across this data. So now, if I want to calculate the total sales by ship mode, I have to make use of some if. So what's my range? This is my range. You notice that when I highlight this, I'm having what? Table. So when you are using table, you do not need to what? You do not need to lock it to actually to reference. You don't need to actually to reference a table. Because what? By default, before you create a table, specify the what? The range. Before you create a table, you specify the what? You specify the range. Meaning what? Excel already knows where your table starts and where your table stops. So if you are using a table, if you are referencing the data from a table, make sure that Excel recognizes it is a table. You see that what? It is showing as a table, not showing as a range. If it's showing as a range, you need to lock it. But if it's a table, you don't need to lock it. So now, I've specified my criteria will be what? Is this second one? And my sum range will be, let's say I'm in total sales. So I need this. If I enter it, autofill. So this is the value. You see that what it is showing as table. So nothing changed because I'm not selecting a range. That is why I do not autofill. But if you are selecting a range, not a table, you must always what? You must always autofill. You must always what? You must always autofill. So that being said, now let me now this same thing that I calculate. Let me use pivot table to calculate it. If you want to put pivot table, click anywhere on our cell, on our table, go to insert to receive pivot table. It will ask us if you want it on an existing worksheet or a new worksheet. So if I want it on an existing worksheet, I just need to click it and say okay. So now pivot table will show us the different type of data, all our columns. Pivot table will show us what? All our columns. So I'm interested in the total sales by ship mode. So I need to first select the ship mode. Here's my ship mode. So I can either select it or I can drag it. You can drag it. So you can either select it or you can drag it. So now if I want the total sales, I'll click on what? On my total sales. So now if this is my data set, if you are comparing what we have here, let me copy. I have it. Now, if you are checking the values, this is for second class. Check this value. You see that what? They are the same thing. This one and this one, you see that what? They are the same thing. The arrangement is not the same. That is why. But just check the values. You see that what? The values is the same. So you see that instead of me going through the process of using SUMIF with pivot table, I'm easy to what? I can easily generate it. If I want to know the count, I can just come to my data set that I select. I can come to my data sheet that I select. If you click on value fit setting, I can say I'm not interested in the sum. I'm interested in the what? In the count. It will give you the count. So with pivot table, it makes it easy to easily calculate whatever is what calculates. So if I come here, so if I say sum, so let me leave it as sum. So that is for that. So let me treat another question. The question says total quantity sold per subcategories. Total quantity sold per subcategories. So you can either go to your table and insert the pivot table, or you can easily copy it. Just copy it and paste it. But always ensure try to change this header because of the display that row labels. So if I say sheet mode, so I can just now total quantity sold by subcategory. I just need to uncheck this. I need to select the quantity. When you select the numerical value, just make sure that if it is what you need. So total quantity sold is what? Definitely sum of quantities. So now if I need it by subcategory, I just need to what? Select subcategory. So to give me what? The breakdown of the total quantity sold per what subcategory. So that means what? The amount of each subcategory that is sold. The amount of what each subcategory that is sold. That is how that works. So for the next question, it says customer with the lowest sales. Customer with the lowest sales. So now if I want to calculate customer with the lowest sales. So I can just copy this. And just copy this. So customer with the lowest sales, I just have to check this. Check this. Okay, I need the sales. Then I'll select customer. So I'll select the customer. And so now there's a customer with the lowest sales. That means that I need one value answer. Okay, you can come here. Condition. You see label filters, you see value filters. I want to filter the value. When you click on it, you come to top 10. So if I want the lowest, that would be what? The bottom. Customer with the lowest sales is what? Just one customer. So if I say okay. So now this is the customer with the lowest sales. So this is the customer with the lowest sales. So with whatever thing you see that all these flexible questions, like all these flexible questions that was they are easy to solve. If you want to attempt something like this with functions, you just have to extract the customers. Then you have to look for the mean. You have to look for the minimum value. When you return the minimum value, you cannot make it or something like VLOOKUP to find the customer that the minimum value belongs to. So like what? That's why I say pivot table is an aggregation and summarization tool. It makes your analysis easier. And if you want to create visuals for dashboard, it is still pivot table. You should just take a visual from an image, like from a range, and you create a visual from there. No. When it comes to creating dashboard, we take it from our pivot table. So if I want to introduce a visual now, I just click. Whenever I click on the pivot table, you will notice that what there is pivot table tab. So you click on this pivot table tab. Yeah, if you click on this field list to leave, click on it to come. Now let's say pivot chart. If I want to put, if I don't want this, I want bar chart. So you can what? You can select. So when creating dashboard, it is these visuals that will make it. When creating dashboard, it is these visuals that will make use of when creating a dashboard. So we're not talking about that now. So there's a customer with the highest sales. So I can easily just come up customer with the lowest sales. And I come to this filter, value filter. So instead of low bottom, I'll change it to top. That will give me the one. The customer with the highest sales. Next, it says, what is total cost? I come to my data set. I have sales, I have profit, I do not have cost. But we know that what sales is what? Sales is cost. Cost is what? Sales minus profit. Why sales is what? Profit plus cost. And profit is what? Sales minus cost. So now they're asking us what is the total cost. But we do not have what? We do not have the total cost. So there are two ways to go about that. There are two ways to go about that. So the first method is I can come here. First method is I can come here. Check this. If I want to create it, if I want to proceed without having what? Without having the first column. Without having what? Without having the first column. When you come to pivot table analyze, you see with this where there's calculations. You will notice feeds, item, and set. If you click on it, if you click on calculated feed will take it to a page. So let me say I want to name it total cost. Let me say I want to name it total cost. So now I can say sum, because I know that what the total cost will be what? The total sales minus the total profit. So I can easily say the total cost will now be sum of what? You'll come here, select the sales, start it, close bracket, minus sum of what? This time is what? Profit. Start it. And if I close it and I say, okay. So now, if you come here, it is not here. It is not here. At least it's not here yet. So if I come to click on this, so it has already even calculated. I was going to say you should come here and refresh. If you refresh it, to display it here. This is the total cost. So that is the first method. So the second method is I can easily come to my table and just create a what? A cost column. So the cost column will be what? It's just be what I have in my sales minus profits. This is one thing about table. If you do a calculation, you don't need to make use of autofill. It will fill it automatically because what? It is a table. So now, if I want to calculate the total cost, let me say I copy this, put it here. So if I take it, yeah, this is total cost, the calculated field I did. So if I come here and I refresh, you see that what the cost column has been added. So if you create a new calculated field or you add a new column, you need to refresh it to reflect on your pivot table. So if I click on the cost, so you see that what result. If I change this, I change it to currency. So I change it to currency. You see that what? You see that what? It is the same thing. So these are two ways to go about it. So if you do not feel the need of just creating a column, you can just the calculated fee. But take in mind that you must be familiar with the calculations. But if you're not familiar with your calculations, you can just go through the process of what? You can just go through the process of creating new column. But if you're familiar with the calculations, you can make use of what? The calculation feed. You can make use of the calculation feed. So that is how that works. So next, you say which ship mode is bringing in more revenue? Which ship mode is bringing in more revenue? So it's more like saying which ship mode brings in the what? The highest revenue. Which ship mode brings in the what? The highest revenue. So if I come and I'll check this, I just have to look for the ship mode. The revenue is the same thing I've done in sales. Select what? That's it. So this time around, they are not asking for everything. So I can easily just come and say value filter, come to the top 10 and specify that I only want what? The highest. So this grand total, if you don't like this grand total, just come to design. You see subtotals, grand totals rather, out for rows and column. So now the standard what? The standard class is the one that what? That brings in what? The highest revenue. That brings in the highest revenue. And also this allows hierarchy. The pivot table allows what? Hierarchy. What do I mean by hierarchy? If I have this, here, if I first select category, category, subcategory, what is a division of that category? So the hierarchy is what? I can select the category, then if I want the total profit by subcategory. So if I click here, you see it. So this is what? This is the total, profit for each category. So if I'm interested in the breakdown, that means what? How each subcategory contributes to the total profit. That is what I do by what? Like adding it. If you come, you will notice that what the subcategory is under what? My category. So if you click on this plus icon, it will show you what? The breakdown. Click on this plus icon. It will show you what? It will show you the breakdown of how the what? Subcategory accumulates the profit for the what? For the category. So that is how it is over there. So this hierarchy is also applicable to what? To the month, to the year. To the month, to the year. So let me say, I want to create this. So to the month, to the year that I'm talking about. So if I click on this date, I click on this other date. Yeah, I've not changed, I did not change my dates. Oh. Check my dates. My dates are not even in the proper dates format. Oh. They are not in the proper dates. So if I come in, so let me refresh. If I select my words, you see that what? It shows the year, the quarter, the month, and the date. So now if I see the total sales, if you want to see the breakdown, if I select the total sales, this is the total sales for the year. So if you are interested in the breakdown, if I first click on show you the first hierarchy. First hierarchy is what? After the year is the quarter. After the year is what? Is the quarter. So it shows you what? The quarterly breakdown of what? Of that total sales. So now, if I want to see how each month perform, I'll come to this plus sign of the quarter. You click on it. It shows you what the breakdown of what of each month. You feel the what the breakdown of each month. Now, if you need it for the daily, you just have to click on it. So it will show you what the day. So you notice that what it is not showing every day. So meaning what there are some days that what sales is not recorded. So it might be either the what there are no sales or what the firm does not open. Yes, I take for example, if you're talking about a firm that does not open on weekends, let's say Friday, Saturday, if you are checking their sales record, you will only see what Monday to Friday. You never see weekend. Yeah. So this is the breakdown. Well, with private table, you see that what we get to do a lot. We are able to what to do a whole lot of things. And another thing about pivot table is all the pivot table will be created. If you are clicking on it, you'll be seeing that what they are being named after how the order in which you create them. If you select this is first pivot table I created. And I think this is the second one. If you select this. So to avoid confusion while working with data sets, you can just rename it based on what you are working with. I can say flip mode. Okay. Yeah. If I click on this one, so I can easily get that what this is my pivot table. So you can rename it based on what you are working on. Because if you are working with multiple tables, you just having pivot table 1, pivot table 2, pivot table 3. You won't know which is which. So when we get to when we are doing when we are doing dashboard, I will show you like why it is important because there's what we call slicer. So slicer is used in what? In dashboard. But let me just this is different for which one. I think it is for this. So if I click on this visual, if you click on this visual, if you come to if you come to what? To format the pivot table analyzer, you will see insert slicer. Let me just give brief explanation. Slicer is just what how you filter your data sets based on what the category you specify. So let's say I want to make use of category as my slicer. If I click on those, so these are my categories. If I click on anyone, you notice that what it will affect the values. If I click on anyone, so this is slicer. So while applying slicer to visuals, when you're applying slicer to visuals, you need to establish connection with all the pivot tables you've created. So imagine if you do not name your pivot table and it's just in the order of pivot 1, pivot 2, you won't know the pivot table that are what essential for you. But if you name it, you can just put that, okay, I want my slicer to filter this pivot table. I want my slicer to filter this pivot table. But just know that what, just have people like that pivot table is what has to do with what slicer. It is for filter. So it is for filter purposes. So now, lastly, let me do this last question that says, total sales made in the year 2018. Total sales made in the year 2018. So let me create something. You see that what total sales made in the year 2018, they are saying what? It's actually for the total sales that were made in the year what? 2018. So if you come here and I say, if it's not showing, just come here. This feed list, it will bring this icon. So this is my total sales, but I need it for the year. So I'll select year. So they say 2018. They do not ask if it's the highest or the lowest year. It's just 2018. So I just have to come in and filter out the remaining year and select 2018. So this is total sales for what year? 2018. So this is so now So now the final project of this class will be on creating a dashboard. It will be on creating a dashboard. So I said for you to create a dashboard, you need what? You need to first be familiar with pivot table before you can actually create a dashboard. You understand? You need to actually be familiar with pivot table before you can create a dashboard. So, but for now, that will be all for today. Is there any question? So, do anyone have any questions on what I've explained so far? Is there any question? Okay.
Good evening. I think the class is somehow overwhelming, sir. But we thank you for all you have done. So I think I have to go back again and watch up it. And by then, I'll be close to me.
So, like, if you're probably going over the recording or if there's anything you do not understand, you can just call my attention to it. Yes, and so if at any point you are going probably over the recording and there's anything you do not understand, you can just call my attention to it to clarify it for you. Do you understand?
Thank you. Thank you, Dr.
Welcome. Welcome. Is there any other question?
Okay, yes.
Okay.
Hello. Okay, thank you very much.
Hello,
I
hello, I
really,
can.
I really appreciate the class. Though this is my first class for the year. You see, I can go through the records to get more study.
Yes.
I want to ask, is there any version of Excel needed for this class, or we can use any version at all?
The thing is, you can use any version, but one thing is there are some functions that you won't be able to use. And those functions we talked about it when we were talking about test function. We're talking about the test function. So there are some functions that if you're using the other version, you have what limited access. I think if you're using from the 2021 version upwards, you will have access to I think almost all the functions that you need. Because the older versions will work, but what there are some functions that you'll be unable to access. So like the unique I made use of, yeah. What did you say?
I'm actually using 15.
15.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there'll be some functions you will not be unable to make it. At the start of the class, I talked about the test before and test after. I'm not sure you will have it. I talk about unique in this particular class. You will not have it. That function is not in the older versions. I think it is from 2021 upward. So you see that there's what the majority of what you need, you can actually do it, but there will be what? There will be little limitations. There will be little limitations with the other versions. But if you're talking about the pivot table, you can use it with what? With any version. If you want to create a dashboard, you can create it with what? Any version. But what the problem just arises when you're talking about your data cleaning. So when you want to clean the data, you have to make use of some functions. When you want to clean, you have to make use of some functions. To go work in that sense. Do you understand?
Okay, thank you. I'll look for a way to
Okay. So, is there any other question? Does anyone have a question? So, I don't know, probably before next class, I most likely will send the project. So the project will contain what? Just discipline process. And you have to create what is dashboard. So I might send it in advance. And I said I will teach dashboard in next class. So I will send the project in advance. So you might just what do the cleaning process and what create the pivot table. But what you will what you are able to make create the dashboard. So and when I talked about it the next class, you'll be able to proceed. And I might just send it after the next class because you never can tell. So is there any question? Does anyone have any questions? Okay, so in the absence of no question, call it a day.
Okay, so you said
Thank you, everyone. See you next class.
Thank you, sir.